Ludo is investigating a murder at a beach, the same beach where 27 years ago his wife was murdered. After investigating, Ludo and his partner Nathan go to the station to contact the victim's relatives. Then, Ludo goes to a special room in the station, where they use virtual reality to create images of crime scenes. He puts on special glasses that let him see the details. Ludo starts going through the scenes using the program. Suddenly, the program stops working and all the images freeze. Confused, Ludo looks around to see what's happening and is shocked to see a faint image of his wife jogging on the beach, just like she used to when she was alive. As he keeps staring, her image becomes clearer, surprising him. Ludo calls out her name, and she turns around, appearing responsive and eager to approach him. Ludo tries to reach her, but he's stopped by the boundaries of the room. He goes back to the control room where they process case files and asks Agatha, the programmer who recently created this virtual program, if it's possible to display two timelines from the same location in VR. However, she tells him that it's not possible. Ludo thinks he might have made a mistake and decides to ignore the strange incident he witnessed earlier. When he gets home, he finds his new wife, Parvana, along with his eldest daughter from his deceased wife, Juliet, and his young son, Sam, eating dinner together. After spending some nice time with his family, Ludo tries to go to bed, but can't stop thinking about what he saw earlier. He goes back to the station and uses a virtual reality program to revisit a previous case. To his surprise, he sees his deceased wife sitting alone on the beach. He approaches her and they talk, but she doesn't recognize him because he looks much older now. Ludo asks her about the time and date she thinks it is now, and tries to convince her by sharing memories of their life together, that he is his husband. However, Melanie finds it hard to believe him and feels scared by what she hears. She rushes home to her husband and child, unable to shake off the thoughts of the man who claimed to be her husband. She tries to ask young Ludo about it, but he jokingly says she must be confusing him with someone else. The next morning, Melanie goes back to the beach and finds old Ludo waiting for her. She asks him how he knows about things in her house. He tries to explain that they're not in the same time or place. He says they might have accidentally made a connection between his time and hers. Ludo gently tells her that she died while running on the cliff after falling, and he expresses how much he missed her. He wants to see if they can change Melanie's future by changing her past. Ludo advises her not to visit their friend's house that night to see if she disappears from a group picture they took together. Melanie starts to believe him. They agree to meet there after midnight to test their theory. Ludo leaves the virtual reality room to meet his partner and talk to the sister of the previous victim. After the interview, they learn that the case is actually a suicide and can be closed. But Ludo doesn't want to close it because he's afraid he might lose touch with Melanie. So, he lies to her to keep the case open a little longer. Later, Ludo secretly gets Melanie's file and shares his discovery with his partner Nathan, thinking Nathan might be struggling because of him. Nathan agrees to keep the case open for a bit more time. That night, Ludo checks an old group picture he took with Melanie and is happy to see she's no longer in it, thinking their plan might work. Rushing to the station, Ludo tells Melanie what he found, saying they could still save her life. The next morning, Ludo checks Melanie's case file again and sees her death date has been changed to 2 days before he told her about his findings. Melanie is crushed, thinking there's no way to change her fate. Melanie asked him if he could show her the file and the pictures in it. When she looked closely, she saw herself wearing a ring that wasn't hers in one of the pictures, which both of them found strange. Excited to solve the latest clue, Ludo went to Nathan's house and was surprised to see how much his friend's life had changed. Nathan was no longer married to Melanie's friend because of changes that had been made in the past. Understanding the significance of this, Ludo hurried home to check on his family and was relieved to find them still there. However, as he sat with them, he realized that if he had saved his deceased wife, he wouldn't have this family now. That night, Melanie waited for Ludo at their usual meeting spot at midnight, but she was surprised to see her co-worker there. Confused by his sudden appearance, she asks why he was there. He explains that he enjoys jogging at that time and suggests they could jog together sometime. Feeling disappointed by Ludo's lateness, Melanie abruptly ends their conversation and leaves. Later, Ludo arrives, feeling disappointed in himself for missing Melanie. He spends the night at the beach, only to be woken up by his daughter, who is wearing the unfamiliar ring found on Melanie's body. When Ludo asks about its origin, Juliet reveals that it had always been among her mother's belongings. Putting the clues together, Ludo realizes that Melanie was actually murdered years ago by the same person who killed the recent victim, as they both have the same ring. Ludo shares this information with his daughter, which deeply upsets her. He promises to find the murderer. Ludo goes to the station and tells his friends about his wife's death. He mentions finding the same ring on the latest victim's hands, and his friends agree to help him. They tell their boss, who lets them keep investigating but advises Ludo to step back because of his wife's case. He says no. Back at VR, Ludo tells Melanie how changing things in the past effects has created butterfly effect in space-time. He worries he might lose his wife and child. Melanie feels sad but understands he had to rebuild his life after she died. Ludo tells Melanie that if she survives, she must leave him on the day she was supposed to die, so he doesn't lose his family. She agrees. They start investigating for the next few days. Melanie works hard to help Ludo find the murderer. One night, while she's working late in her office, the same coworker who seems to like her interrupts her again, but she turns him down firmly. The next day, Melanie joins her friends and family to watch a soccer game, but she doesn't seem interested. She feels like something bad is about to happen. In 2025, Ludo finds another old case similar to his wife's and decides to investigate. He discovers that after Melanie's death, they found another body. Later, Ludo cooks dinner for his family and they have a good time together. Melanie struggles with the thought of her husband having another family after she survives. She feels very jealous. Remembering how Ludo met Parvana, an immigrant at the time, Melanie uses her abilities to get Parvana involved in the investigation. To her surprise, she learns that her husband is the only available police officer to lead the case. Melanie feels guilty when she realizes the danger she's putting Ludo in by continuing the investigation. She asks Ludo to stop looking into it, even though he's surprised by her sudden change of heart. Ludo agrees to her request. Back at the office, Melanie tries to persuade Florence to go out with Nathan, as they were supposed to be a couple, as per Ludo. In 2025, Ludo is getting closer to figuring out who killed his wife. He discovers a new clue that connects the criminal to the son of a jewelry store owner. Ludo and Nathan go to the store and find rings similar to the ones sold after his wife's death. They try to talk to the owner, but she refuses to give them her son's contact information. Ludo, frustrated with her refusal, goes back to the police station and talks to Melanie about how to arrest him before he harms anyone else. But then, Ludo gets in trouble with his boss for being rude to a civilian and is sent home for the day. Later, Melanie tries to get the man Ludo suspects of being her murderer arrested for assault by convincing his girlfriend to report him. When the original plan doesn't work, she decides to talk to him herself. This makes the man very angry, and he ends up hurting her. When he gets home, he can't find his family. He realizes something must have changed in the past, preventing Parvana to exist in this timeline. He rushes to his daughter's room and discovers that Juliet has become addicted to drugs and is isolating herself in her room, which worries him a lot. Ludo calls the hospital where his wife used to work and learns that Parvana was never married. He rushes there to speak with her but realizes she doesn't remember him at all, which shocks him. After passing out and regaining his composure, Ludo receives a call informing him that the man they were searching for isn't important anymore because Melanie had already reported him before her death, shattering his whole theory. Ludo then enters a virtual reality, VR simulation, and recounts what happened in his timeline, explaining to Melanie that he lost his family. Seeing his tears, Melanie looks shocked, prompting Ludo to ask if she had any involvement. Melanie, feeling guilty, admits she had Parvana brought in for investigation. Enraged by her betrayal, Ludo accuses her of ruining his life and their daughters, demanding that she do whatever it takes to bring his family back. Melanie, feeling remorseful, confides in her friend named Hector about locating Parvana after she moved apartments because of the interview. After Hector gives Melanie a tip about where Parvana might be, Melanie finds her and convinces her to come back to her apartment, promising to assist her with housing. Meanwhile, Ludo visits his wife in the hospital and is surprised to see that she recognizes him once more, showing that Melanie has successfully helped him regain his memory. Overjoyed, Ludo rushes to Parvana and embraces her, expressing his enduring love. Later that night, Ludo meets Melanie in virtual reality, and she asks him to teach her how to shoot after stealing young Ludo's gun. Though hesitant at first, Ludo eventually agrees. Meanwhile, young Ludo wakes up to find his wife's bed empty and becomes worried about her frequent nighttime outings. He heads to the beach to search for her. Ludo and Melanie practice shooting for a while before settling down on the beach to discuss the future. Later, Melanie tells Ludo that she has to go back home, unaware that young Ludo has followed her there and is unable to see the other man with her. Confused, he watches her alone on the beach, unsure of what she's doing there. When she finally comes back home, young Ludo feels sad because she left during the night, even though she had just been attacked. She apologizes for leaving, but they end up arguing. Later on, Ludo goes to work and is happy to hear that Melanie's plan to get their friends back together worked. Nathan and Florence are now reunited. The team gather. They start noticing similarities in the cases and realize that each victim must have known their killer. When one of the detectives suggests that there might have been someone suspicious creep hanging around each woman, Ludo gets upset and tells them that his wife would have mentioned it if that were the case. When Ludo goes to the station for his meeting with Melanie, he learns that the technician who created the VR is becoming suspicious of his frequent visits. He meets Melanie and expresses his concern to Melanie that they might restrict his access. He explains that they need to work faster. Ludo asked Melanie if anyone had been bothering her lately because they thought the victims knew their killers. Melanie mentioned her coworker Nicholas had been annoying her, which made Ludo suspicious. He planned to meet up with Melanie later and talk to his team. After gathering them, Ludo convinced them to investigate Nicholas, whom he now suspected. While trying to follow Nicholas, Ludo accidentally bumped into Florence, who let slip that Nathan knew all the murder victims, but he never mentioned it. Ludo found this odd, but decided to search Nicholas's office instead. Ludo looks around, but can't find any evidence to support the charges against the man. This makes him reconsider and cancel the accusation. Ludo starts to doubt his friend, and decides to investigate further when they meet at the station. He asks about the man's knowledge of one of the victims, but his friend denies it strongly. Later, when Ludo checks the evidence in the VR room, he realizes that his friend had interfered with the investigation. This leads Ludo to delve deeper into the connections between the victims and his friend, and he's shocked by what he discovers. In another scene, Ludo faces his family and has to confess to his wife about helping Melanie. Although his wife understands his dilemma, she threatens to leave with their son if he continues to support his ex-wife, knowing it will change their lives. Despite feeling sad about her ultimatum, Ludo returns to the station to warn Melanie. Meanwhile, in Melanie's timeline, she argues with young Ludo after trying to explain why she had been distant from him. Although she tells him the truth, Ludo finds it hard to believe her. He follows her to the beach and suggests that her recent insomnia might be causing hallucinations. Melanie gets upset with young Ludo because he doesn't trust her. So, she decides to leave the beach and have a drink with Hector, and Ludo missed the chance to tell Melanie who the murderer is. After a few drinks, Melanie walks home and meets Nathan, who offers to give her a ride, but she wants to be alone and declines his offer. Later, she goes to Florence's house to avoid a fight. The next day, she talks to Ludo on the beach and learns that Nathan is the killer. Melanie is shocked and finds it hard to believe, but Ludo insists he's right. Suddenly, Ludo is called out of the VR room, and the chief tells him to stay away from the case because he's too involved. Ludo thinks Nathan is behind this. He tries to convince his colleagues that Nathan is guilty, but they don't believe him. Angry, Ludo decides to quit the force, but takes Melanie's files and Nathan's mug secretly to check for DNA. In the past, Melanie felt afraid about what might happen to her, so she decided to make a video for Ludo explaining her concerns. Later, she went to her office and gave the video to Florence, telling her about her situation. However, Florence didn't believe her. She thought Melanie was trying to harm her relationship with Nathan, so she angrily rejected the tape and left the office. Meanwhile, Ludo left his job at the station and went home, quickly switching the virtual reality glasses. He told Melanie what had happened and advised her to stay safe now that she knew her attacker, even though she didn't want to die. Melanie refused to harm anyone to protect herself, and instead asked Ludo to let her see their daughter. Ludo went to the hospital to persuade their daughter to come home, but she refused, thinking he was acting strangely. Later, while Ludo was in his car, he got a call from Kim, one of the detectives on the case, who told him that Nathan had cancelled the DNA test based on the mug he had taken. She explains that she found Nathan's behavior strange and tells him that she was going to check the man's house while he sits in the car with a bit of hope. He is surprised by his daughter, who changes her mind and gets in the car. The two drive to his home, and Ludo puts the glasses on his doubtful daughter, who is shocked to see her mother standing there. Although it seems weird at first, Melanie tries to connect with her daughter, but Juliet finds the moment too awkward and leaves after a while. Ludo returns to the situation and tries to comfort his late wife. Melanie thanks him for taking good care of their daughter and tells him about the tape she was going to give to her friend Hector. The two share a heartfelt farewell before she leaves after meeting with Ludo. Melanie goes home and cooks a nice dinner to make up with young Ludo. They then spend a passionate night together. The next morning, Melanie wakes up realizing that it is her last day and leaves Ludo in bed to deal with Nathan after calling him to meet her. Melanie becomes scared and shoots him in the middle of the street, but only manages to injure him a little bit. She then rushes to her friend Hector's house to give him the tape so he can pass it on to Ludo in the future. Ludo goes over to Hector's house to ask for the tape Melanie had mentioned she had left. Hector tells Ludo that Melanie confessed to shooting Nathan and left a tape with him, which Ludo didn't know about before. Ludo, feeling confused, notices strange things around Hector's house while Hector goes upstairs to get his son. Meanwhile, in Melanie's timeline, she panics about what she did to Nathan. Hector tries to calm her and offers to bring her a sweater she left with him the day before. Upstairs, Hector opens a box full of Melanie's belongings, revealing that he's been secretly collecting them over the years, showing he's always been a stalker. After talking with Hector, Ludo is certain that Hector is his wife's killer. He rushes home to warn her, but when he searches for his glasses, Parvana tells him she destroyed them to prevent trouble. Angry and seeing her as selfish, Ludo leaves to warn Nathan about Hector in Melanie's timeline. Meanwhile, Melanie tells Hector she's left her husband with only a letter as an explanation, feeling free to be with him. Hector tries to kiss her, but Melanie backs off, saying she's not ready. Melanie feels strange about everything happening, so she decides to leave, not wanting to involve Hector in the crime. Hector insists she stays, promising to help her, and confesses his love for her since high school. He shows her a ring, identical to the one found on her dead body. Melanie realizes Hector, not Nathan, is her murderer and gets frightened. Trying to calm herself, she goes to the bathroom. When she takes too long, Hector checks on her but gets no response. Melanie jumps out of the bathroom window and runs to the beach, with Hector following and asking what's wrong. Meanwhile, Ludo rushes to the station to apologize to Nathan and confess he found the real culprit, but Nathan refuses to listen and warns Ludo about getting fired if he continues with the case. Nathan decides to handle things on his own. Ludo begins to follow Hector and catches up to him. Ludo tries to talk to Hector about why he thinks Hector killed his wife. Hector says he feels sorry for Ludo, but denies any involvement in the wife's death. Angry, Ludo threatens to send Hector to jail for life and even punches him. Later, Ludo goes to the bathroom to wash the blood off his hands, thinking it's evidence. Suddenly, Hector appears and tries to attack Ludo. They fight, and Hector stabs Ludo in the stomach, claiming he has witnesses to make it look like self-defense. Meanwhile, on the beach in another timeline, Melanie is being chased by Hector. She reaches a cliff and pulls out a gun she's been carrying. She warns Hector to stay away, but he begs her to put down the gun. Melanie realizes Hector's obsession and shoots him in the chest to protect herself. In the future, Ludo wakes up in the bathroom with no wounds. He's surprised and rushes to his car, where he finds Melanie's file missing. Assuming his wife is alive and has found the killer, he hurries home. But when he enters, he hears a woman's voice and sees Parvana, not Melanie. Though surprised, Ludo is happy to see his family and embraces them. Ludo discovered that his former wife was the one who killed Hector. Maybe Ludo didn't understand why his ex-wife did such a terrible thing. Hector was killed in 1998, but none of the 4 women he might have hurt were harmed. In the last scene, Ludo meets Melanie in prison, and there might still be some love between them, as Melanie says she's been waiting for him for the past 27 years, and they finally touch each other. Here our story ends. If you want to check what happened in New Timeline, between 28 years after Melanie killed Hector, check the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe and help me grow.